Good morning. I'm Cecil Haycock, pastor of Walker's Chapel, Church of the Brethren, Mount Jackson, Virginia. Today, I'm bringing to you a concern that many times we've overlooked. And the question is, who owns the earth? Well, if we look at Proverbs 21, it says, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and those who live therein." Well, do you really believe this? Many people may give it lip service, but the way they live their lives, they don't show it, especially politicians and so on, that they indicate that they have the right to rape, to litter, to pollute the earth as if it belonged to them. If the earth belongs to God, what is our responsibility in using its resources? And the key word is steward. We are to exercise stewardship in the things that God has presented. What is the function of a steward? Well, we find it in the life of Joseph. If you remember, his brothers were jealous of him, and they were going to kill him, but they saw a better solution. A troop of men on their camels were going to Egypt, and they decided they could sell Joseph to them. And that they took Joseph to Egypt, and then he became a slave down there to different ones. And he did his best in everything. He didn't complain, but he took care of things and so on. And finally, his master, his wife, was jealous. Well, as a matter of fact, she wanted Joseph to make love to her, but he refused to do it. So she claimed that he tried to rape her, and his master then had to get him out of there. But it was one thing after another where he tried to do his best. And finally it boiled down to a fact that he was able to interpret dreams. And one of the ruler's sons had been sent to prison, but he had a dream. This man had a dream, and Joseph was able to interpret his dream that he would be set free and go back to serve his master. But then Pharaoh had two dreams, and his wise men couldn't interpret them. But then this one who was a servant to the king said there was a man in prison that was able to interpret his dream. So they brought him out and gave him the information that he was to interpret. It was 3 fat cows came up out of the water, and then there was 3 skinny cows that came up, and there was first some full wheat heads, and then heads that was dried up, no good. Joseph was able to tell him it would be 7 full years and then 7 years of famine. And he was given the position then, second in honor, to take care of that. And he demonstrated his stewardship. They made provision for storing food during the plentiful year, and then they were ready for the time of starving. But in Exodus 23, though, we find how God gave Moses responsibility for stewardship by requiring a sabbatical year, and that is, 1 year after 7 years, they let the soil rest. And so it was. And that was the example that we had. Because you see, the thing to take care of what needs to be cared for, God's world, there are 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. We know that the business we have depends on sales. You see, they advertise us that we just can't live without the products, and we need to buy it. And so it is that people buy all kinds of things that they don't really need. But then there's something else, though, the fact that the products that we get are not intended to work for a good while. It's what they call obsolescence. Dishwashers and all kinds of things that you buy are intended to waste so long, maybe 5 to 6 years, and then you couldn't get them repaired, and so you had to buy a new product. You see, that's the problem we have to deal with. Now, there's a problem that a lot of people don't reuse products. Many people throw away very good clothing, good products of various kinds. So many times we just have to have all kinds of things that are not that important. And I think I heard of a case where this family was moving into a house. They were unloading, they had all the latest things available and so on. And there was a couple from an Amish home watching across the fence. And they said, in case you don't have it, we're able to show you how you can live without it. And this is the thing we have to realize. Many times we can live without things. But then there's reuse. So many times people are not willing to reuse a number of things. And I know in my family we've gotten reused clothing and appliances and many things that are other people's junk. And they work out very well. But then there's another thing that we have to realize. It's what we call recycle. And the thing is, people tend to throw things away. They're not concerned about them being repaired or anything. And certainly this is true of electrical and telephone, laptops, for instance. But it's no telling how many laptops are thrown away. And here some years ago, they said about 19,000 tons of laptops a year are thrown away, and most of them could be upgraded if they had someone to work with them. But then we find other things thrown away: tires, plastic containers, and paper. We may not be aware of what's happening, but in the ocean there are floating masses of plastic, and there's what they call the Great Pacific Patch, and it's the largest accumulation of ocean plastic in the world, and it's located between Hawaii and California. It's a problem. Navigators has to plow through this mess, and there are actually 5 big patches of plastic in the world. But you know, we have the responsibility to take care of what God has given us. We are called to be stewards. We're to act as part of the solution rather than the problem. Do you ever pick up other people's litter along the road and various places? Or sometimes it's just when they just throw it in the floor when they go into a bathroom. So don't just complain about what's happening around you. You need to do your part. Take care of God's world for others as well as for yourself. Now, you know, as I said, they are throwing away everything. Well, I have to remember that Subaru advertises that they have no waste, that they found a way to recycle everything. I guess I have to say, maybe you ought to check your Subarus before you buy the next car. But I want you to remember, though, what it says in Psalms 24:1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and those who dwell therein. You have a responsibility to take care of God's world. We can live better on less. We just have to remember that. And I pray that all of us will consider that we have the responsibility to take care of God's creation. And remember the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. The Lord bless you.